clock is ticking fast to the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, and the Uganda Cranes are finalizing the preparations. We'll be discussing that when they head to the United Arab Emirates. Not only that, there will be a wrap to the local season here where Proline do entertain Bright Stars in the Uganda Cup final. The same in Europe, where it is the Copa del Rey final, where Barcelona seek to win a fifth straight title when they meet Valencia. The odds as well are available for the Monaco Grand Prix, and we'll be discussing the UEFA Europa League final, the first of a kind, where two English teams will be meeting in Baku next week on Wednesday. Welcome to the Just Darren Show, powered by Betway.
Don't wait for the final whistle. Betway is giving you complete control of your bets with early cash out. Cash out before or during the game. Visit betway.ug, navigate to the menu or your bet slip. Select My Bets. Tap on Open Bets. Here you will see your cash out offer. Tap on Cash Out and confirm your choice. It's that easy. Place your bets with Betway.
Now let's begin with the Uganda Cup final, because it is the final game of the season that sees a final for the first timers. Proline, who are the FIFA Big League champions, the second tier of football in the country, taking on the side that is Bright Stars, who finished 8th in the Uganda Premier League last season. Now they wrapped up the season with 42 points and crossed the 40-point mark for the very first time since they earned promotion into the top tier. And of course, that's quite a big statistic for the side that is managed by the coach that is Fred Kajaba, who is also the goalkeeping coach for the Uganda Cranes. Now, of course, Kajaba is up against a 39-year-old in Shafik Visaso when the two teams meet at the Masaka Recreational Grounds this Saturday. That is 3 p.m. is the kickoff time, and it has been a long road for both of these teams. Bright Stars eliminating Express in the previous round. They played out a 2-all draw on aggregate in the semi-finals before eliminating them on penalties, and that was the same story on the other hand for Proline, who ejected Chetume, another FIFA Big League side that earned promotion, also ending 3-3, but Proline advancing via penalties. In the quarterfinals, of course, Proline managed to get the scalp of Vipers, and of course they managed to win that one in Lugogo. And this is the journey that they've moved. And guess what? Only a week ago, Proline was celebrating promotion to the top tier with the FIFA Big League victory, where they managed to beat Wakiso Giants a goal to nil in the final. And the name on everybody's lips all season for Proline has been the man in Bright Anukani. He's actually made selection. He's been selected to the Uganda Cranes team that will be engaging in the subsequent games that they've got in the COSAFA Championship that comes up in a while. But also other players like Ivan Bogeru managed 14 goals in the FIFA Big League. Also names like Joseph Mandela, Mustafa Mujuzi, who've got the experience and are returning to the top tier. But they would love to return next season with the Uganda Cup title. And of course, Bright Stars on the other hand, having players like Nelson Senkatuka, who is carried the headlines, wrapped up the season with 16 goals to his name, and of course his best tally in the season there as we speak. And of course other players that you could talk about like Davis Kayanja, Jamil Karisa, who have been quite influential for the Bright Stars side. Of course, Kajaba will be hoping that he gets one over Shafik Visaso. However, in the previous meetings, the last 6 between Proline and Bright Stars, Proline has managed to win twice. The other contests have ended in draws. How does this wrap up? You could check on www.betway.ug. The odds could be available before kickoff time on Saturday. And of course, that is the site that has all the odds available for football across the continent, including the CAF Champions League final, where Esperance do take on Wydad Casablanca this weekend. Let's talk the Uganda Cranes, because the days are running pretty fast ahead of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, where the Cranes do anticipate a 7th appearance in history. That's after 1962, 1968, 1974, 1976, 1978, 2017, and now 2019. Of course, the Uganda Cranes will be meeting the hosts Egypt, Zimbabwe and Democratic Republic of Congo in Group A. But the preparations will see the Cranes take 3 weeks camp, and that begins early next week in Abu Dhabi, where the Cranes will have a friendly match. At least the one already scheduled is on June 15th against the 2015 Africa champions, Ivory Coast. Now, of course, the Cranes have already, the Cranes coach, that is Desabre Sebastian, has summoned 27 players, and of course there are some unfamiliar names including Abdul Lumala, who has been summoned in the team there, Ronald Muchivi, a defender, both based in Sweden, Bevis Mugabe from Yeovil Town in the UK is as well back in the 27-man squad that was summoned. It also has familiar names including Derek Nsibambi, who's been summoned back into the team, strikers Patrick Kadu scored the all-important goal as the Cranes qualified against Cape Verde back in November with a game to spare in Group L that had Lesotho as well as Cape Verde. Of course, the other names that have been summoned in the team, 4 goalkeepers, and one is expected to be dropped. There is Charles Lukwago, Roberto Donkara, Salim Jamal Magola, and then the captain, Dennis Onyango, the only Ugandan who was named in the Africa Best 11 of 2018. Now, of course, this is the team that will gather for 3 weeks in camp, and of course, from there, they will descend down to Egypt for the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations, where the Cranes opened the campaign against Democratic Republic of Congo on June the 22nd. 4 days later, they will take on Zimbabwe and then wrap it up against the Pharaohs, all at the Cairo International Stadium. Of course, courtesy of Betway, I'll be giving you all the updates across my social media platforms, and I'll be interacting and more. And of course, keep the tabs open because Betway is engaging you with lots of campaigns that will be coming ahead of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations. For you that did win the tickets, well, good luck and enjoy the trip as you go and visit the country that is the land of the Pharaohs there. But the Uganda Cranes will be hoping that they can make it out of the group stages like they did back in 1978 when they went as far as the final before they lost at the Accra International Sports Stadium 2-0 to the hosts Ghana. Now, the world of Formula One was hit with sad news when Niki Lauda was announced dead. The 3-time Formula One world champion died on Monday, and of course that's after several years when he did win the Formula One championship in 1975, 1977 and 1984. He did drive for the Ferrari and McLaren during his time, and of course lots of history centered around his name. But of course one of the teams that he did drive for is not getting anything right, yet their rivals Mercedes are getting everything right at the moment. Actually, the debate in the Formula One circles has turned to whether the championship and the event is boring lately, considering that Mercedes has had 1-2 finishes from the very first race of the season in Australia to the last event that was in Spain. And of course now that leaves Lewis Hamilton with 3 victories and two second place finishes, while Valtteri Bottas has had 3 second place finishes and 2 victories, and that means that Hamilton leads Bottas by just 7 points. He's top of the drivers' standings with 112 points when the drivers get onto the narrow circuit that is at the Monaco Grand Prix later on this week. And of course, early practice on Thursday, but the drivers having the main race on Sunday. That is about 4 p.m. Ugandan time on Sunday afternoon. Who'll be winning this one? The odds are available at www.betway.ug. We've seen a surge for the Mercedes, for the Red Bull car rather, that has had the driver that is Max Verstappen rise to 3rd position in the driver's standings. He's on 66 points, interestingly ahead of the 2 Ferrari cars, that is of Charles Leclerc as well as the man that is Sebastian Vettel. Now, when you get to www.betway.ug, do not get surprised if I did go and pick Max Verstappen. The odd for him is at 4.35. However, Hamilton is still favorite with his odd as low as 2.05 on www.betway.ug. Also, Valtteri Bottas has his odd at 3.50 to clinch the victory at the Spanish Grand Prix, the 6th race of the season, 21 races. the entire calendar. We'll wait and see who will be winning the Formula One Championship. But as it stands, Mercedes does still boss the charts there as we do speak, as well as the Constructors' Championship. My pick would be Hamilton, but my gut feeling is the Red Bull could turn out to be the stubborn one when they get onto the narrow circuit in Monaco this weekend. Now, for the first time in history, the top 5 leagues in Europe were all retained by the respective clubs. PSG retained the French Ligue 1 title. In Germany, Bayern Munich managed to retain the German Bundesliga. Manchester City became the first English club in 10 years to defend the Premier League title. Barcelona did the same in Spain, and now we'll stay in that particular country because the Copa del Rey final comes up this weekend, where Barcelona themselves are playing in a 6th straight final against Valencia, which will be out this weekend. They will be facing off in Seville, with Barcelona hoping that they can win 5 titles in a row in this particular competition. Now, of course, they are the record champions in this one, 30 titles that they've won over the years. And for the coach Ernesto Valverde, there's been talk that his job could be on the line, especially after Liverpool managed to overturn that 3-0 deficit in the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League to book a final. It's the second season it's happening for Barcelona. Remember, last season they did lead AS Roma, and then Roma overturned that thanks to the Greek god in Rome. And this season again, Liverpool doing it again. Now, Valverde's job could be on the line. He, however, needs to gain some respect by winning the Copa del Rey, a trophy that he did win last season. He spent 2 seasons at Barcelona. He's won both La Liga titles, and he could wrap up with another second Copa del Rey honor if they do win this one. Of course, the last 8 meetings between Barcelona and Valencia have had Barcelona win 5 times, but the last 2 meetings in the La Liga this season have seen both teams draw, and the last meeting came on 2nd February, had both teams play out a 2-all draw. Now, when you look at the players that the coach Marcelino, on the other hand, for Valencia does have, who are seeking to win the first Copa del Rey title in a space of 11 years. Of course, he has names like Santi Mina, he has names like Daniel Parejo, who have carried their headlines, including last weekend where they managed to wrap up and secure a UEFA Champions League slot for next season with a 2-0 victory over Real Valladolid away from home. Barcelona, interestingly, drew 2-all with Eibar away from home. However, they had already wrapped up the La Liga title. www.betway.ug. Barcelona is my pick to win a 5th straight title in the Copa del Rey. Their odd is at 1.56, but for a draw and probably extra time and penalties, it is at 4.37. And for Valencia to stun Barcelona, the odd is at 5.27 on www.betway.ug. I actually think Lionel Messi could be any time scorer. You can as well bet on that on the site. Well, for now, I do think Barcelona will be wrapping up a double in the season, and probably our eyes will now begin to shift, and probably our eyes will focus on the UEFA Champions League final that comes up on June the 1st. But first, we'll be taking a break and returning with the Europa League final. Now the big party before the main event is underway next week on Wednesday, when the UEFA Europa League final takes center stage at the Olympic Stadium in Baku. It is Chelsea against Arsenal in an all-London final for the very first time in history here in the UEFA Europa League. It is also the 3rd time that 2 teams from the same country are meeting in the final, the first happening in 2011 when FC Porto met Braga, of the 2 clubs from Portugal. Porto winning that one in the final, and a year later Athletic Madrid managed to beat Athletic Bilbao, both teams coming from Spain. Now, who will be taking this one? Which side of London will be celebrating at the full-time whistle? Will it be Arsenal, who have won 5 games on the bounce in the competition, or Chelsea, who are unbeaten the entire campaign in the Europa League this season? They've won 11 of the 14 outings that they've had and drawn 3 others, and they could wrap up the championship unbeaten. Maurizio Sarri, on the other hand, the coach for Chelsea, would become the oldest coach ever to win the UEFA Europa League at the age of 60, and that means that he would go on to eclipse Jose Mourinho, who was 54 when Manchester United lifted the title 2 years ago. When you go to www.betway.ug, Chelsea are the favourites going by the odds, and perhaps even my picks that I'll be able to give out next week, with Chelsea's odd at 2.33, Arsenal's odd is as high as 3.09, and for a draw, probably extra time, it is at 3.35. But guess what? Olivier Giroud has scored 10 goals and is on level with Luka Jovic and the joint top scorers in the competition so far. On the other hand, the man that is Willian has had 7 assists in the competition so far. But guess what? Alexander Lacazette and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang have been firing at all cylinders for the Gunners. Well, they are the go-to men for the coach Unai Emery, who has already won the Europa League 3 times before he joined Arsenal. And when you look at that, it implies that Lacazette and Aubameyang could hurt Chelsea like they did in the Premier League back in January. The first meeting between the two teams this season saw Chelsea win 3-2 at the Stamford Bridge before Arsenal revenge with a 2-0 victory. How will their third meeting go? My gut feeling is Chelsea could edge this one, and probably it will be the last game that Peter Cech may be playing, unfortunately, against his former club, and may not win the silverware. It could also be the last outing for Eden Hazard at Chelsea. All odds available on www.betway.ug. Well, for now, just to tell you that you've been a wonderful audience, and thank you for watching the Just Darren Show. We'll be back next week to tell you all and more to do with the UEFA Champions League final, where Liverpool do take on Tottenham Hotspur, the final that will be in Madrid on June the 1st. For now, remember, it's just Darren.